Hey guys, welcome to Correct Me, and I got a video for you today. We're going to talk about how the Trump regime has been disappearing people to the El Salvadorian prisons. And I want to go into detail because now we're learning that a lot of these people are not criminals. They're definitely not criminals. Some of them are asylum seekers, okay? They're what, like, they went to the US to expect a better life, and this is what they got, guys. So first, let's start with the Trump propaganda video that they made when they took these people to the El Salvadorian hellhole. So you can see, like, it's well produced, right? They spent time. Now remember, they told us that these were gang members, right? They're showing us some hard people.
Nombre. Nombre.
César Eliseo Sortomaya.
Easy!
Just wow. So that was their propaganda video of when they actually took the people to El Salvador. Okay. And we have some reporting. We have actually a lot of reporting on this. First is this Time Magazine piece. And I'll put the link below for the Time Magazine piece so you can read the whole thing too. But I highlighted some key points. So this is from a photojournalist. And just so you guys have a little bit of backstory, this photojournalist is in El Salvador because this dystopian gulag that they sent these people to is something that people haven't seen before, okay? And it was because their president wanted to clean up the gangs, and he's taking a tough stance on it. So, which is fine for them. You know, there's been human rights concerns because they do, you can see these pictures, they do stack people 80 to a cell, 100 to a cell, right? And like, so they don't get any phone calls. They only get out of their cell for like 30 minutes a day. That's it. Just to do exercises, stuff like that. But here's where I want to start, okay? At around 2 a.m., the convoy of 22 buses, flanked by armored vehicle and police, moved out of the airport. Soldiers and police lined up a 25-mile route to the prison with thick patrols at every bridge and intersection. For a few Salvadorians, it was a familiar landscape, but for the Venezuelans plucked from America, it must have appeared dystopian. A police and soldiers for miles and miles in a woodland of darkness. Okay? The Terrorism Confinement Center, a notorious maximum security prison known as CCOT, sits in an old farm field at the foot of an ancient volcano. It's brightly lit against the night sky. I've spent a considerable amount of time there, and I know the place intimately. As we entered the intake yard, the prisoners were giving orders to assemble. Hundreds of guards. He told them the Venezuelans had tried to overthrow the planes, so the guards must be extremely vigilant. He told them plainly, show them they are not in control. Okay? The intake began with slaps. One young man sobbed, okay, when a guard pushed him to the floor. He said, I'm not a gang member. I'm gay. I'm a barber. I believed him. But maybe it's because he didn't look like what I expected. You know, he wasn't a tattooed monster. So, guys, the one he's talking about is, I think his name is Neri. Okay, and here's a picture of him here. Like, does that look to you like an El Salvadorian gang member? He's an asylum seeker, okay? Left Venezuela to come here, or to the United States, like not here, in Canada. He came to the United States to seek asylum, probably because he was being prosecuted because he's gay and a barber. And then without any due process, okay, so no judge, no nothing, he had a tattoo with rosary beads on him. So you know what? They collected him up and they sent him over here to this El Salvadorian prison. Shit's disgusting, guys. Let's just keep going, okay? So, inside the intake room, a sea of trustees descended on men with electric shavers, stripping their heads of hair with haste. The guy who claimed to be a barber began to whimper, folding his hands in prayer as his hair fell off. He was slapped. The man asked for his mother, then buried his face in his chained hands and cried as he was slapped again. After being shaved, the detainees were stripped naked. More of them began to whimper. The hard faces I saw on the plane had evaporated. It was like looking at men who passed through a time machine. In 2 hours, they aged 10 years. They aged 10 years. Their nice clothes were not gathered or cataloged, but simply thrust into a black garbage bags to be thrown out with their hair. They entered the cold cells, 80 men per cell, with steel planks for bunks, no mats, no sheets, no pillows. No television, no books, no talking. Okay? No phone calls, no visitors. For these Venezuelans, it was not just a prison they'd arrived to, it was exile to another world. A place so cold and far away from home that they may as well have been sent into space. Nameless and forgotten. Holding my camera, it was as if I watched them become ghosts. So, I mean, that line's become famous now, right? And I want to show you how... we'll come back to that. Christy Nome here is using them now as another Propo video.
Here at CCAT today and visiting this facility. And first of all, I want to thank El Salvador and their president for their partnership with the United States of America to bring our terrorists here and to incarcerate them and have consequences for the violence that they have perpetuated in our communities. So I also want everybody to...
So she says violence in her communities, but there's no violence. The guy's a barber. He's a barber and a makeup artist. And that's just one of them, okay? There's another guy that had a tattoo for autism awareness, and he's been taken, okay? And I'm going to show you him in a minute. And there's reporting that most of them now were not criminals. Did not have any criminal records, nothing like that, okay?
If you come
but here she's saying, oh yeah, they're hardened criminals. They're not. They're just, that's absolute false.
Illegally. This is one of the consequences you could face. First.
And then the other thing she says is if you come illegally. These people came legally. They seeked asylum. They're waiting.
First of all, do not come to our country illegally. You will be removed and you will be prosecuted. But know that this facility is one of the tools in our toolkit that we will use if you commit crimes against the American people.
See, so she's threatening, guys, that she will use this against you. And, just to show you how, they don't care about the law.
How do you determine, or how...
This is, I don't know what he is. He's Holman. He's in charge of ICE, and he's the one rounding him up and sending him off to this El Salvadorian hell. And then so the reporter asks him, how do you know what I mean? The judge, first of all, told you not, but here.
How do your people in the field determine that somebody is a gang member?
Look, there's various methods. I've noticed in the media this week, a lot of them don't have criminal histories. Well, a lot of gang members don't have criminal histories. Just like a lot of terrorists in this world, they're not in any terrorist database, right? We only know the information what's in databases based on, for instance, most terrorists we arrest that are identified by the U.S. government are later identified through a Title III investigation or through an undercover operation. They're not in any terrorist screening database. We know that. A lot of gang members, I started as a cop in 1984. Many gang members don't have a criminal history. So we have to count on social media. We have to count on surveillance techniques. We have to count on sworn statements from other gang members. We got to count on, wiretaps and Title IIIs. Everything involved with criminal investigations come into play. So just because someone hasn't been arrested and charged with a crime yet, doesn't mean they're a member of a gang.
But how do you, what we've heard from lawyers representing some of these people is that they deny that they're members of this gang. Or either, Tren de Aragua or MS-13. Do they get a chance to prove that before you take them out of the country and put them to a notorious prison in a country that they're not even from? I mean, do they have any due process at all?
Look, due process. Where was Lake and Riley's due process? Where were all these young women that were killed and raped by members of TDA? Where was their due process?
Well, the people that did that should be prosecuted.
Alive on the subway. Where's her due process?
Well, sure.
The bottom line is that.
So, do you see what he's saying, guys? He's like, oh, where was Lincoln Riley's due process? Nobody's saying that, people should be murdered. And their murderers should face a judge, right? A jury, and be prosecuted. Definitely. That's what separates criminals from the law of the land. It's not hard to explain, right? But this asshole, right, is rounding them up, and he says, what due process? What due process? And if you think they're not going to come for you, it's not today, but they're going to come for you. So now let's go to this intellectualist article, and they break it down, and they actually got all 250 names, okay? And they're a lot of them are not gang members, okay? So they disappeared. Trump's mass deportation machine, shadow prison in El Salvador. Knock at the door, then nothing. Imagine waking up one morning to discover that your brother is gone. Not missing, disappeared. No phone calls, no charges, no lawyer. And days later, a message appears that he's been deported to a country he's never been to, locked up into a concrete hell designed for gang leaders and killers. This is not a story from Argentina's dirty war or Stalin's gulags. It happened in the United States in 2025 and is still happening as you read this. The disappeared 238 Venezuelan men secretly deported to the Trump administration to an El Salvador's most notorious prison, a facility condemned by the United Nations, Amnesty International, and Human Rights Watch for crimes against humanity, human dignity, okay? Not criminals. The targets of vulnerables, okay? They were taken, they weren't taken because they were criminals. They were taken because they were vulnerable. Asylum seekers, migrants, dissidents, fleeing persecution, hoping for protection under American law. Instead, they were swept up under statute from 1798, the Alien Enemies Act, a wartime relic once used by John Adams to jail immigrants. The Trump administration revived it and reinterpreted it to enable them to enable a deportation machine without trial, judge, or oversight. This wasn't a crackdown on MS-13. Most had no criminal records. Some were flagged only for tattoos, like Jefferson Jose Lafertiz, deported because of a lion on his forearm, which was assumed to be gang-related. It was actually a tribute to his Christian faith. Or Arturo Suarez Terrago, sorry if I'm butchering these names, a Venezuelan singer living in Houston, legally awaiting asylum hearing. One morning, ICE came to his door. He's being transferred to finish processing, they told his daughter. He never came home. His family identified him in a prison photo, head shaved, shackled, kneeling in a white uniform in an El Salvadorian mega prison. This is dark stuff, guys. Okay. Black Saturday, the collapse of judicial authority. This was the reality on March 15th, 2025. So we're talking about 15 days ago here. Black Saturday. the day that the Trump administration defied federal court orders and deported a large number of these men to this notorious prison. Okay, a judge had ruled the deportations unconstitutional and ordered the flights to be turned around. So I want to be clear here. The flights were still in the air. There was nobody on the ground in El Salvador. Okay, judge in America rules that this is unconstitutional, guys. You can't do that. I need to know who you're deporting, where you're deporting them, why you're doing that. And the White House said, you know what? Fuck you. We're doing it anyways. We're doing it anyways. So the planes were in the air. The White House ignored the ruling, and they kept going. It was a day the United States crossed the line no constitutional democracy should ever cross. CCOT, modern gulag, because CCOT is not a prison, it's a modern gulag. No windows, no sunlight, no visitors, no phone calls. Prisoners are held in stress positions, denied food, beaten with batons, and stripped of all identity. They sleep on concrete in crowded cells. 100 men to a room. We heard 80 in the other one, but 100, okay, 80. Their heads shaved. Their movements are choreographed by armed guards. The United Nations Special Rapporteur on Torture condemned CCOT as a site of systemic abuse. El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele presents it as a symbol of authoritarian control, but it's a dumping ground for prisoners deported by foreign governments looking to disappear them without security. And there's actually reporting, guys, the U.S. government is paying $6 million to have these people held there. Okay, so where the fuck was Doge on that? And that's where the United States sent them, and they had done nothing wrong. Not back to Venezuela, but to a third country where no legal jurisdiction, no treaty, no accountability. Photojournalist Philip, that was the Time article that we just saw. And I'm just going to speed through this, guys. You can also read this on it. But one of the guys that was taken, okay, was, and these are the name of the 238 men, okay. One of the guys that was taken had a tattoo for autism awareness for his brother, okay. And I found this video online where it's in Spanish, so I don't understand it, but really you don't need to speak Spanish to understand what they're saying in it, okay. And I'll just let you watch it.
Mi nombre es Alinson Anzola, presidente y entrenador del Club Asylum, donde Neri estuvo trabajando y ayudándonos a realizar terapias a la neurodiversidad con la cual nosotros trabajamos. Neurodiversidad del cual padece su hermano Nelson. Producto de ello, él se hace este tatuaje con su nombre escrito, el cual nosotros queremos aclarar que no tiene nada de relación con alguna banda criminal o delictiva. Pedimos libertad inmediata para este compañero que sencillamente ha sido una persona honesta, trabajadora y de buena familia. Pedimos libertad inmediata para nuestro compañero Neri, que se haga justicia pronto. Te queremos libre y aquí en Venezuela, disfrutando junto a tus familiares, Neri. Te queremos.
Soy Nelson Alvarado y pido libertad para mi hermano.
Queremos que Neri regrese a Venezuela.
Do you think these kids are holding up signs to liberate a gang member?
Neri
Like that
es
little
un
guy looks
muchacho
devious, doesn't
muy
he?
honesto, fue profesor de mi hija y excelente persona, muy respetuoso.
And remember, guys, he's not going to get a phone
Justicia
call.
para
He's
Neri.
not going to get.
Espero que
He's
vuelva
not going to get
pronto.
any kind
Un
of
muchacho
food.
trabajador, responsable,
He's going to be
muy
stacked
honesto.
with
Libertad
80
para
other
Bueno, yo conocí
possibly
a
gang
Neri,
members.
un excelente muchacho, hijo de una excelente familia.
And to me, some of those people look scary. I doubt that this guy could defend himself against them. Like, who knows what they do? And I think here, this is a last article where... No, this isn't it. This right here. This is a video of a CNN guy going into the prison, just so you can get a feel for what the prison is like.
Suddenly, you're hit with the intense gaze of dozens locking onto you. These men described as the worst of the worst, tattooed with reminders of El Salvador's dark past. It's tense and uncomfortable. But here, officials say comfort isn't meant to exist.
There's no mattresses, there's no sheets. You've got a toilet over here for them to go to the bathroom. You've got this basin here that they use to bathe themselves. And then you can see there's a barrel of water that they can drink from.
This is a rare look inside El Salvador's terrorism confinement center, known as Secor.
And he says there's always somebody standing here in front of the cells. And then if you look up, there's another corridor with more security personnel. Luz 24 horas. 24/7 light. It's almost multiple prisons within the prison. You can see off to the distance, there's 3 different rings as they describe. The far end, you have one that's 9 meters high of concrete, and then above that, 3 meters of electrified fencing.
At 15,000 volts.
15,000 volts.
More than 1,000 security personnel, guards, police, and military are stationed on site. Inmates are assigned to one of 8 sectors.
The director tells me the inmates, once they're inside one of these sectors, they never leave. Everything is done within, including doctors, as well as legal visits or court hearings.
Each sector holds more than 24 large cells.
Roughly 80 inmates per cell, but it can fluctuate. We're going to close the door. I just want to get a sense of... Wow.
Solitary confinement awaits.
The only light you get is through this hole, and they can be in here for 15 days, potentially. All right, I'm ready to get out. The director brought up that a lot of folks will raise concerns from a human rights perspective and an abuse of human rights, that he's calm hearing that because he sees it day to day, the process they go through to maintain, as he sees it, proper punishment.
Proper punishment, as he sees it. Guys, you can't be rule of law and not have due process, right? Like if you want to, send these people to this hellscape, I guess that's what America wants to do, but like at least make sure you're sending the right people. Like just let them see a judge before on their way out. You know what I mean? And for those of you that want, like in Canada here, that want to be part of the 51st state, this is what you want? You want to be part of this? I don't want to be part of this. I'm disgusted by it. But I want you guys to let me know what you think. Put your comments below. Maybe I'm way off. Maybe you got some insights that I don't. I'm willing to look at everything. Let's talk about it. Let's chat about it. And I'll catch you guys on the next video.